This woman was the happiest mother in the world when she gave birth to her first child. She gave birth to a beautiful son and, once at home, the family was blissfully happy. But the wonderful coming of their baby boy was not the only thing that happened to this lady and her husband. Because 6 weeks after giving birth, she felt a strange sensation in her belly. 6 weeks after giving birth, she gets a strange feeling. You'll never believe what the doctor sees on the ultrasound. And then the doctor decided to make an ultrasound. He never saw the following thing coming. But before we get there, we have to tell you how this pregnancy got started. Because it seemed like a pretty normal pregnancy at first. When Ellen found out she was pregnant with her first child, she ran into her husband's office, squealing with joy. Beaming, she showed him the positive pregnancy test. "There you go. It worked," she shouted, jumping up and down with the test in her hands. And Ellen wasn't the only one who was overjoyed with this result. Her husband, Wesley, also had a smile from ear to ear on his face. They had been waiting for this for so long. At the time, however, the young couple did not yet know what the future had in store for them. Ellen's pregnancy was difficult. Her belly grew so much that every movement she made was painful. And the baby in her belly wasn't exactly calm either. A real football player in the making. Wesley proudly predicted whenever the baby would kick. On the one hand, Ellen was happy to become a mother. It was something she had always desired, but on the other hand, she couldn't wait until her pregnancy was over and done with. The agony that this little child in her belly gave her was almost too much to bear at times. Fortunately, after 9 long, painful months, the day of the delivery finally arrived. When Ellen woke up in a wet bed one night, she immediately knew what was going on. Her waters had broken. With screeching tires, Wesley raced over to the hospital for the delivery. He probably broke many speed violations, but he didn't care. Once in hospital, it wasn't long before Ellen could start pushing. And where the pregnancy had seemed to take forever. The delivery only took a few hours. And then he was here. Little Colin was a big baby, weighing almost 10 pounds at birth. "No wonder you've had such a difficult pregnancy," said the doctor as he watched the newborn baby in amazement. But because Colin was already so tough, he was allowed to go home with his parents the very same day. Ellen still had a sore belly, but the doctor assured her that this was quite normal after childbirth. Little did they know that this belly would have a big surprise waiting for them in the future. Blissfully happy, the family left home to start their new family life. Ellen held up her beautiful Colin and looked at him with tears in her eyes. "You are all mine, and we are going to be so happy together," she told him with a soft smile on her face. But after she stopped speaking, she felt her belly again. A sharp pain that was trying to say, "Trouble is on the horizon." At first, Ellen thought it was just the after effects of pregnancy, just as the doctor said. She had heard that sometimes it takes a while for the body to readjust after childbirth. But as the days went by, the sensation grew stronger and more distinct. It felt like something was moving inside her, like a tiny creature trying to break free. She tried to ignore it at first, but it was impossible. The feeling was too strong, too overwhelming. She became obsessed with it and spent hours every day lying on her bed, feeling her stomach and trying to figure out what was going on. For some strange reason, she did not want to go to the hospital. Ellen was so happy to be home from the hospital with her brand new family that she tried to play the happy new mom role. She played that happy role for as long as she possibly could. Every time she felt the pain, she would go to another room so her husband wouldn't find out. But when the pain seemed to get worse and worse, she started to worry. "It felt like someone was stabbing me in my belly. It hurt so much," she later told local reporters. Eventually, after 5 weeks of hiding the pain, she couldn't take it anymore, and her husband noticed that something was wrong, and he begged her to go to the doctor. She was hesitant at first, but eventually, she agreed. As they drove over Todhee Hospital, Wesley, the husband, noticed that she kept rubbing her belly, just as she did when she was pregnant with their baby boy. "You almost act like you're pregnant, but that's impossible," Wesley said with a nervous grin on his face. When they arrived at the hospital, she immediately examined by several doctors. They did some tests and took some scans, but they couldn't find anything wrong with her. You are perfectly healthy, ma'am. We don't see anything wrong with your body, they said. The only thing he could tell her was that her body was still healing from the pregnancy and childbirth of their first child. Take it easy, was the doctor's advice. But less than a week later, fate still struck. When Ellen was standing in the kitchen preparing a bottle, when the pain became so intense that she fainted right onto the kitchen floor. Wesley lifted her off the ground and raced her off to the hospital in record time. Once there, she was immediately examined by a different doctor. Something is very wrong here, Wesley shouted. Doctors didn't even try to calm him down because they could completely understand his panic. He sat down in a corner of the room and watched as the doctor did her tests. Quickly, she was connected to all kinds of devices and the tests could start. Wesley had explained to the doctor that she had been suffering from terrible pains in her abdomen for the past few weeks, but that her own doctor had assured her that this was part of the healing process. Clearly there was something more at play here. The first test results came back negative and didn't show Wesley or the doctor anything. They were the same results their last doctor gave them. It proved that Ellen was physically healthy. But where does all this pain come from then? Ellen asked while holding in her squeals. It's a long shot, but I want to try one more thing, the doctor said. She rolled in the ultrasound machine and prepared the jelly. But I already had the baby. I'm not pregnant, so what will that device show us? Ellen asked in complete confusion. The doctor did not answer the question. Instead, she continued and silently applied the jelly on Ellen's stomach. The screen lit up and showed its first images of the inside of her abdomen. As the ultrasound machine hummed, the couple watched the screen with bated breath. The doctor's face contorted in confusion as she moved the wand around, trying to get a better look at what she was seeing. It was hard to read the expression on her face. But it didn't take long for the doctor to speak. What is it? The new mother asked, her voice shaking with fear. I'm not sure, the doctor replied, her brow furrowed as she stared at the screen again. The doctor kept looking back at Ellen and started mumbling to himself. The whole thing made the already confused couple quite nervous. The doctor pulled out a stethoscope and put the cold metal part on Ellen's belly. She listened while looking confused at the ultrasound monitor again. This couldn't be, but the evidence is undeniable, the doctor said. What is it, doctor? What do you see? Ellen asked again. It looks like another baby, she replied. The couple stared at the doctor in shock. How is this possible? We had and it has already been 6 weeks since my labor, Ellen spoke with a confused face. The doctor said that this was a little miracle and that she in her 25 years as a doctor had never seen anything like this before. Have you ever heard of a cryptic pregnancy before? She asked him. I bet you haven't. She started explaining, a cryptic pregnancy, also known as a stealth pregnancy or a hidden pregnancy, is a rare phenomenon. A phenomenon in which a woman is unaware of her pregnancy until she is well into the 3rd trimester or even until she goes into labor. Despite exhibiting little or no physical symptoms except right at the end of pregnancy, you will normally continue to menstruate and hardly gain any weight. But Ellen's case was even more special than this. Because Ellen was already pregnant with baby boy Colin while this cryptic pregnancy occurred. And Colin defiantly was the only baby in her uterus. But there is one more form of cryptic pregnancy that can happen. I have never personally seen it, but I have heard of it happen in Kansas City once. The doctors explained that this was an extremely rare condition called an external cryptic pregnancy. It happens when one baby grows inside the uterus, while the another baby grows outside of it. Colin was a big baby and occupied the entire uterus. Therefore, his twin sister or brother had to find a different place to grow. That's when doctors didn't see her on ultrasound. Because in the uterus there is no baby to be found. And with this baby being a cryptic pregnancy, Ellen never showed any symptom of having twins. Her belly even shrunk back almost all the way when Colin was born. The doctor showed Ellen and Wesley the heartbeat of the little baby on the screen, and for a moment both parents smiled. But that smile would fade right after that. Because now that they had found him, they had to get him out right away. Time was of the essence for both mother and child. This baby had been in the belly for too long, and so it had to be born now. The sharp pain Ellen was feeling for almost 6 weeks now were minor contractions. And now they had intensified. This baby really had to be born right away. Ellen was rushed to the operating room. It was perfect timing, and praise should be given to all the doctors and nurses attending. Because once there, a small miracle happened. Within seconds after the anesthesia had taken its effect, an incision was made in Ellen's lower abdomen. The doctors performed a perfect C-section, and Ellen's second child was born. Compared to Colin, this little boy was very tiny. The external uterus obviously did not supply as many nutrients as the main uterus that Colin lived in. The doctor told Ellen that the baby was going to be fine, but that he had to be taken away for some examinations. After about 30 minutes, there was news about the health of this little miracle. When the doctor walked into Ellen's hospital room, he carried the little boy in his arms. When she saw her second child, she was immediately overflowed with love. A true motherly love. She stretched out her arms to her baby. The doctor laid the little man on her chest, and the two parents were in love right from the start. "So you're the little troublemaker who's been hurting me so much for the last few weeks," his mother whispered lovingly. "Well, I'll forgive you because you're my little miracle." The little guy turned out to be small, but very healthy, and so the family was allowed to return home soon. The first few weeks were tough, with 2 little ones to care for. But Ellen and Wesley managed just fine. And soon they settled into their new routine, taking turns feeding the babies and changing diapers. Colin adored his little brother, and the two of them would lie in their crib for hours, gurgling at each other and hugging each other. Ellen would watch them with tears in her eyes, feeling so incredibly grateful for her 2 little miracles. As time passed, the family continued to grow and thrive. Colin and his little brother were the best of friends, and Ellen and Wesley were happy to be parents to 2 healthy, beautiful boys. Their unconventional birth only made them more special to Ellen and Wesley. They now focused on the future, but the experience of Ellen's cryptic pregnancy never left them. They often wondered how it was possible for Ellen to carry 2 babies at once and not even know about it. They were amazed at how rare and unusual the situation was. But yet it had happened to her. They also couldn't help but wonder if there were other women out there who had experienced the same thing. Curiosity then got the better of them. That's why they started a support group that would encourage and help other pregnant and new moms across the country. The platform is an online website that Ellen and Wesley manage in their spare time, and now years later it is in high demand. You might think that their situation is so unique that there aren't a lot of mothers out there who need help. But you're wrong. Because of the website, Ellen has helped hundreds of women from all over the country who are struggling through their own pregnancies. Women who suffer from postprenatal depression, and she even met one other woman who also had a cryptic pregnancy. It is an amazing accomplishment, and Ellen is helping all of them, and her bizarre pregnancy experience helps her do that. And what about her own boys? They have grown like crazy. They went from little babies to walking infants, they got their own voices, started walking, and even developed a little attitude from time to time. Especially Aaron, the last born of her twin boys. Are you curious to see how they look now? Continue and you will find out. Now, 2 years later, things are doing great with the young family. The 2 brothers, Colin and Aaron, meaning miracle, are growing up happy and healthy. They are the best of friends and are inseparable. Their sentimental mother looks back on the past few wonderful years and can't remember a single day that they weren't together. I just love them. Ellen and Wesley are also very happy with their 2 beautiful boys. "They are my little wonder boys," she says, beaming with joy as she said it. "Did you see this denouement coming?" Well, we sure didn't. But we are happy that we learned about this story. And even more happy that we got to share it all with you.